Hey, what's going on, everybody? Manny here once again. Welcome to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NBA and NFL. I got a brand new video for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to discuss today's 5-game slate in the association. But before I get started, like always, I appreciate you guys drop a like. And if you're new to the channel, first time here, never ever seen any of my NBA lineup advice videos, the only thing you need to do to be a part of the DFS Zone community and be able to get this content on a regular basis is to become a subscriber of the channel and basically put on your post notifications on. If you do that this way, if you do put on your post notifications, you'll be notified when I upload a new NBA lineup advice video. All right. With that being said, today is Sunday, December the 30th. We're down. We're almost to the start of the new year. We got 5-game slate in the association. Before I get started with the video, like always, I like to do a recap of some of the plays I gave you yesterday. Yesterday, I did tell you guys to take Mr. Murray. Had a solid, big game. Didn't expect him to put up 63, but I really thought he was in position to put up 40 or better. He put up 63.2. I did tell you guys on Twitter if Murray was out because there was like a game-time decision. You know, it wasn't too certain if he was going to play, if he was going to start. But I did tell you guys on Twitter if he was not a go, definitely pivot down and pay down at point guard and take two of the value plays in either Exum or Satoransky. And both of those guys panned out pretty well. Satoransky put up 32.8 and Mr. Exum put up 31.5. I had them both in some of my quarter matchups just to free up to pay up for other positions, other studs. I did tell you to take Mr. Beal. He put up 46.3, solid game for Bradley Beal. Did expect him to, I was hoping for him to put up 50 or better. Harden was my other play, which I told you guys that I was going to be all over on. He was my top stud of the day, and he put up 68.8. Joe Ingles was definitely a complete bust at small forward. Really surprised. Not even my Knickerbockers came to play in that first half. I think they were just like, I don't even know what was going on. I wasn't watching a game, but it was just terrible to look at the scoreboard and see that they were losing by 25-30 at some point. Ingles bad game. Draymond Green didn't play well either. 23.8 fantasy points from him. That was definitely a downer. And then Mr. Nurkic was fine at 44.5. Is pretty much what I expected. He's a good, solid cash play for you cash play players, which I did say in the video yesterday. But I was definitely hoping that he will, jump over the 50-point hurdle, which he did not, but nonetheless 44.5 is good. Overall, not a bad night on top of some of the other ones that I gave you that did pan off well too. I'm not going to go over all of them, but nonetheless, not too bad other than Ingles was just really a complete bust. All right, let's go into today's slate. 5-game slate. At the top here, as you can see at point guard, Russell Westbrook is the top dog at 11-8. And if I'm paying up for anybody today, he's probably the one that I would pay up for because, again, Paul George should be back. But Paul George is coming back from an injury. He has had a day or so to rest. I think he's going to be 100%, but I'm always worried about that. And I'm looking at the matchup. Dallas is very vulnerable in both positions, but I think more vulnerable at the point guard spot. So I think that I would lean towards Russell Westbrook. So if you're looking to pay up for a stud today, I think he's the one that I would recommend you guys would be targeting. Mr. Westbrook. Other than that, I do love Ben Simmons here, and I will have quite a bit of exposure to him. I like the price tag. I like the game matchup against Portland. Portland does have issues at the point guard position as far as defending opposing point guards, and he's being a tall, big, good rebounding point guard. And, of course, not only that, he's able to score well. I definitely like his matchup here against Mr. Lillard. De'Aaron Fox, how I feel about him. I always will sprinkle him in a little lineup, but unfortunately his price is getting really up there. He is going up against the Lakers, which I think he'll do just fine. 9,000 here. He needs about 45. So definitely a tough number there, but I think he is someone that you can consider. I love Simmons' matchup a little bit better. And again, going back to Simmons, I love that matchup even more if Joel Embiid sits today. There is that possibility. He's a game-time decision with that knee issue he has, or maybe just a sore knee or whatever the case may be. I think he'll be okay, but if we find out before lock that he is going to be either not playing or there's going to be he's going to be in a limits restriction, definitely Simmons gets a good bump by me. I would definitely consider him a lot more than I do now. And on top of that, you will have to obviously consider Mr. Muscala as a replacement there for Embiid as far as value is concerned. So, but we're going to come all the way down here. Kyle Lowry still, game time decision here. Obviously, if he's not in, Van Fleet is in play. Then you got Derrick Rose and Jeff Teague, both game time decisions. I think both of these guys are not going to play today. And if they're both out, then of course Tyus Jones comes into play, and then I definitely love the matchup for Justice Winslow if there is no Teague, especially Teague, because Teague is a better defender than Rose. But if these guys are both out, I definitely love Winslow here today. So that's something to be watching out for. But again, if these guys are out, then the value will be with Tyus Jones. But I'm going to come down to Lonzo Ball. And I know we mentioned him the other day, and I know he was a hot commodity the other day again against Sacramento, and I think you just got to go with him again. Is he going to put up 55, 60? I doubt it, but I think he's still in a good matchup for his price tag. I'll take it at 6,500. He's coming in here. 6,500 is what you need. 9 points, pretty much 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 26.7 fantasy points per game. At this price tag, you need about 32 fantasy points, and on DK, he is 6,700, $200 a little bit more expensive, so he's definitely a better price here at FanDuel for you FanDuel players. And you know the deal without LeBron, he's obviously gets a bump in minutes, usage, and all that. In the 2 games that LeBron has been out, as you can see, 33 and a 55, pretty much a 56 spot here in the 2 games. His minutes have also gone up. You know, obviously we knew that going in. We're going to go look for Mr. Ball. And as you can see, his minutes went up from 24, 27 all the way to 37 and 43. Usage rate slightly a little up. And then, of course, his shots, we knew that was going to happen. He's taken 13 to 16. So pretty much 14 and a half, 15 shots in the last 2 games. And look at that as well. He's been taking 4 or 5 threes pretty much on average. And all of a sudden, the last 2 games, 6 to as much as 8. And, of course, he'll get you some rebounds. He'll get you some assists. He pretty much fills up the stat sheet. And he's able to get you some steals and the occasional block once in a while. He's had 2 solid games in a row with LeBron off the floor, and he's actually put up double-digit scoring in both of those games, 19 and 20 respectively. And like I said already, he already played Sacramento, put up a 50, pretty much a 56 spot in the last game. Nice shootout game, 117-116, great game. It should be another close one here again today. I expect him to take as many shots or more. So Lonzo Ball in a perfect spot here. Sacramento 30th, that's dead last in the league as far as defending point guards, and they've been allowing 37.8 fantasy points per game to opposing point guards as of late. Of course, Mr. Ball put up 55. You had 34 from Mr. Frazier and 43 from Mr. Connolly. That's 3 out of the last 5 or 6 players that has faced this team. Those are the numbers. If you're thinking of anybody else, like I said before, when it comes to the point guard position, I pretty much told you which guys I really do like. You have to consider Tyus Jones, obviously, at 4,500. He's right here at 4,500 going up against Miami. Definitely think he's someone you got to consider at 4,500. Van Fleet, if Mr. Lowry's out, you got to consider him at 5,500. You could consider Dennis Smith Jr. He's already played a game or 2 since coming back from injury. At 5,300, that's a nice price tag for him. This is a guy who's definitely over 6K. And Tyler Johnson, you got to consider him as well. He's playing mostly shooting guard, with all coming off the bench, as opposed to Justice Winslow who's been starting. So I like Winslow here. I'm not really fond of anybody down in the lower area here, to be honest with you. I mean, you could consider maybe T.J. McConnell, but that's about it. Let's go over the shooting guard. And at shooting guard today, at the top, man, you got Luka Doncic. And to be honest with you, I love Luka Doncic here today against OKC. I think it's going to be a nice matchup for him. There is a little vulnerability in the shooting guard position for OKC. This young man, I mean, what can I say? He's definitely the rookie of the year. 19 years old. I mean, he is the real deal. I mean, he does it all. He fills up the stat sheet. As you can see, 19 points, 6, pretty much almost 7 rebounds a game, 5 assists. 35.8 fantasy points per game, pretty much 36 fantasy points per game at 8,600 here. You need 43 here on FanDuel. On DK, he's 8,100. You need pretty much just 40. He's averaging 36, but he's been really good. 36 plus in 6 out of his last 7 games. And in that stretch, he has had 2 50-point games, as you can see here, 50 and 52. His minutes are over 31 minutes per game. Let's go over to Mr. Doncic. And as you can see, the minutes are there, man, 30 plus pretty much all the way through. He's about 32, 33 minutes per game on average. And the usage rate is through the roof. For a rookie, this is just truly amazing. 27 and 33 in the last 2 games. But he's pretty much averaging about 27, 28% usage rate. So you know he is a very, very big part of Dallas's offense. And you can see that all on how he does all this in the minutes he's on the floor. Look at the shots. Taking 14, 15, maybe 16 shots on average per game. And he's taking about 6 or 7 threes per game. And he gets to the foul line at least 9 or 10 times a game. So, I mean, he is definitely drawing fouls, and he's a good free throw shooter. He definitely nails them down, puts them down. Then you got the rebounding and assists. And, of course, he can play a little bit of defense, gets the occasional steals. He's had a streak here where he had about 5, 6, 7, almost 9 steals in about 4 or 5 games, and he can get the occasional block. The kid has just been absolutely just wonderful to see. Definitely a great addition to this Dallas Maverick team for the future for them. Going up against OKC, they put up, the last time against OKC, he put up a 40 spot, which was back on November the 10th, and he shot pretty much 31 minutes, 32% usage rate. And, of course, he had 15 shots in that game, 4 from 3, 4 from the foul line. I mean, he pretty much fills up the stat sheet. Look at this, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, had 1 steal. Nice, solid game, double digits, 22 points. I don't expect no different. I really don't. OKC, 8th in defending shooting guards this year, allowing 36 fantasy points per game over the last 5 to opposing shooting guards. Booker put up 55, Wiggins 41, and Donovan Mitchell 38. And I tell you, this kid is right there among those guys right there as far as talent and skill. I really enjoy watching him. What's been him and Fox, watching these two kids, even though Fox is a sophomore, it's been pretty exciting to see these young players play as well as they've been playing in the NBA. So Luka Doncic, a matter of fact, let me pencil him in there. And at point guard, I did tell you it was going to be Mr. Lonzo Ball. So this way you see those individuals there. And, as far as other possible plays at shooting guard, there are other plays, obviously. Jimmy Butler, the bump is there. If Embiid is out, obviously he's someone to consider. But I love Ben Simmons more if the Embiid is in a minutes restriction or doesn't play at all. Buddy Hield, good matchup against L.A. L.A. has some vulnerability there, with Mr. Caldwell Pope and Josh Hart. They're not great defenders, so Buddy Hield could be in a nice spot here at 6,900. He is definitely a nice play if you don't want to pay for Fox at 9,000. This is the second best guy you can possibly go to on this team as far as offense. He's going to take more than enough shots, so Hield is in a good spot. Coming in here, the Lakers have given up 32 fantasy points per game. Right now, what I have on my list here, 32 fantasy points per game to opposing shooting guards as of late. At 6,900, you need pretty much 34. It's in his wheelhouse. He can get it done. You could consider here as well Mr. Wiggins against Miami. Miami's given up 30 fantasy points per game to shooting guards, so there's a possibility there. Wiggins at 6,200, you pretty much need 31. He's averaging 28. He could be someone to consider. Justin Holiday is always someone to consider just simply because of the minutes. It's more about his price tag is good for the amount of minutes he gets. I mean, he's getting over 32, 33 minutes a game, and he's only 5,300. He has those moments where he can get you 30, 35, and he has those moments where he only can get you, 20. But the minutes are there, so if you're looking for a minutes guy, this is a guy that you can go to. Toronto's a tough matchup because you got to go up and deal with Danny Green. But it's someone that I should mention just because due to minutes. You could consider here Dwayne Wade. Minnesota's been giving up 31 fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. So Dwayne Wade is someone you can consider. You need 25 pretty much to meet value here is around his price range and is his average. And we know he has 40-point upside. So Dwayne Wade could be someone to consider. And other than that, I would consider Pope or Hart, but Hart seems to be the one getting most of the minutes at 3,700, man. That's not a bad deal. So he is someone definitely you got to consider. Mr. Josh Hart, Sacramento, 30 fantasy points to opposing shooting guards. They did give a 29, almost 30 to Mr. Hart in the last game, so he is in prime position. For that price tag, I'll take him any day if he could get me 29, 30 against this team. So he is definitely someone you got to pencil in there, especially if he continues to get the minutes. Iman Shumpert got 40-point upside. He's definitely someone you got to take a shot at as well. So Shumpert is in play. LA giving up 32 fantasy points. So you got two guys here that you can slap in there, especially in those quarter GPPs. You can get these guys with both upsides. Shumpert having 40 and Josh Hart having at least 30, 35-point upside. Those are two guys you can consider. All right, small forward. At small forward, I already mentioned it before. If there's no Rose, even if I believe Rose and obviously T got out, but if one of them happens to play, I would prefer it to be Rose. I think I still would like Justice Winslow. Here at the top, you got James with the groin injury. He's out. Paul George, I will have some exposure to, but like I said, my favorite stud of the day for me will be Westbrook. So I'm more leaning towards him. 10,006 is a pretty tough price tag for Paul George, but he's been outstanding. He's been putting up 45, 50 pretty much on average every single night. He is definitely a good cash play for you guys today in this matchup. I would not be surprised at all if he puts 50 or 60 up on the board, but like I said, I will have exposure to him, not heavy exposure. Kawhi Leonard versus Chicago could put, the price tag for me, I would love to see Kawhi put up more 50s. So when I see that, maybe I'll consider it more. I think he's in a decent matchup here, against Chicago. May see some Lauri Markkanen defense, who's one of their better defenders. We will see, but Kawhi Leonard, I'm not high on him today. Josh Richardson, Brandon Ingram could be someone you can consider, obviously going up against Sacramento, 6,800. He could be someone to consider. But I'm going to come all the way down, like I said, to Mr. Winslow. He's been solid, 6,400. You got to look at him as a point guard, even though he's here on Fanduel as a small forward. And normally this is like his natural position, but the guy's been playing the point for Miami and doing excellent there, especially over the last 2 or 3 games. As you can see here, solid in 4 straight games, 27-plus minutes, 30 or better in the last 3. And in the last 2, he's played 32 and 34 respectively, and he's spun double-digit scoring of 20s, 21 or better in 3 straight games. So he's hot right now. A lot of people, he may be a little bit more highly owned today in his 5-game slate, but nonetheless, he's in a good spot. 11 points, 5 rebounds, nearly 4 assists. Definitely balances out the stat sheet, as you can see there. 25 fantasy points per game. At 6,400, he is a little bit pricey, so you need about 32 to 33 to meet value on DK is 6,500, so I love his price on FanDuel better. You need about 33 there as well. He's averaging 26, but as you can see here, 25 or better in 4 straight games, and he has had a 50 spot and a 46 spot. We come over to the small forward here, and let's take a look. Justice Winslow. And again, I'm looking at it as like, hey, the matchup is there. Minnesota gives up a ton of fantasy points to opposing point guards, and you got to look at him as a point guard in this matchup. And they don't have their top point guard in Jeff Teague, who's their better defender, who's been out for a while. Even if he came back, I probably would still take Mr. Winslow. But Winslow is in a good position here. The minutes are there, 30 or better. Look at the usage rate. 22% or better over the last 3, and he had a 33% pretty much in his last game. He's taking more shots now than ever. He's been taking about 15, 16 shots pretty much, 15 shots on average over the last 3. And then, of course, he takes some threes, and he's able to bury them at a good 40, 50% clip as of late. Didn't shoot particularly well in his last game. 0, took up 4 and didn't hit 1, but it was 3 or 6, 3 or 4, 2 or 6. So he's getting 5 or 6 threes per game that he's taking, and he balances out the stat sheet with rebounds and assists, and he's not a bad defender. He has had 9 steals over the last 4 games. So he's been on fire with the defense as well, moving his feet and definitely working his hands and getting those steals. So Justice Winslow is definitely someone that I do love today. He's going up against Minnesota. They're 14th in defending small forwards, 18th in defending point guards. I have to put both of them out there. And allowing point guards 33.3 fantasy points per game. Okay, over the last 5 games, Trae Young put up 35, Westbrook put up 50, and Mr. Reggie Jackson put up 35 in the last 3 meetings, the last 3 opponents. So Justice Winslow is definitely someone in play for me. We're going to put him on there at the small forward spot. Like I said, at the top, I do like still Paul George. You could sprinkle in some Ingram in the small forward spot. Even Covington is in play. But other than George as my favorite play is Winslow. Other than that, I do like Bjelica here again. Bjelica is definitely someone you got to consider in the Laker game. I mean, he has 40, 50-point upside. 5,900 is definitely not a bad price at all for him. And the Lakers are 13th in defending small forwards, but they've been giving up pretty much 23, 24 fantasy points per game. Bjelica did put up 31 against them the other day. Gallo put up 41, and Iman Shumpert put up 44 against them. So, again, there is opportunity, and there is, of the potential for Mr. Namaje Bjelica to put up some serious numbers here. So I like Bjelica as well. You come down, you got to always consider Lance Stevenson. With LeBron James out, he's capable of putting up some serious numbers in a short period of time. Other than that, Maurice Harkless is definitely someone to consider for 1,900. For 3,900, you only need about 1,920, and the guy's been putting 30 or better over the last 2 or 3 games. And then I would probably... That is pretty much it. You could consider Finney Smith a little bit, but I think down here under the 4K, I would prefer Harkless or maybe even OG. All right. That's pretty much where I'm at there. Let's go to power forward. At power forward, you got at the top Lauri Markkanen, you got Kyle Kuzma, Serge Ibaka, Pascal Siakam. All 4 of them are definitely in play. Either one of the 2 or any one of the 4 will be good to go for anyone today. I don't disagree with anyone on any one of these 4. My favorite play is Serge Ibaka. I do like Ibaka in this matchup. He's coming back. He's come back from injury, and he's also been Toronto's center. And the matchup today going up against the young rookie Carter Jr. Definitely will be a good spot for Serge Ibaka. We're coming in here 16 points, 7 rebounds, 1.5 assists, 31 fantasy points per game, 6,700. You need pretty much 33, and he's 5,700 on DK. Love his price on DK. So if you play DK, you definitely should pencil him in as your power forward or center. But 6,700 is not a bad price tag for him here on FanDuel, because he has 40, almost 50-point upside. So he definitely can bring it any given night. And he has played 2 games in a row since coming back from injury, 30 and 31 minutes respectively. Put up 17, 8, 3, and 4 in his last game, 41 spot in the 17. 4 out of his last 7 games have been pretty much 41 plus or better. We come over here, he's had at least. Now remember, we're looking at Serge Ibaka here at power forward, but he's been playing center for Toronto. He will be the starting center for Toronto today. So you got to look at him as a center. At that price tag, that is not a bad price tag if he gets a 40 or better. As you can see, he's had 41 or better in 4 out of his last 7 games. The minutes are there when he plays, 30 minutes or better. And as you can see, his usage rate is pretty good, 24 to 25%. There's been times he's been up in the 30s. And he's going to get shots, 10 to 11 shots pretty much on average. He will take 1 or 2 threes. He can definitely shoot the free throw when he gets to the line. It's not as often, but he can shoot it. And then reboundings are there, and he is capable of getting you a few assists. And what he brings to the table is not only the rebounding, he brings the blocking skills. He definitely can he gets at least 1 or 2 blocks a game on average. And he's been pretty much doing that for like about the last 8-9 games that he has played. All right. He has had 3 straight games versus Chicago. Now, obviously, these are games earlier this year, 23 minutes, 38 fantasy points, pretty much almost 1.2 fantasy points per minute in that one game. And then he had 2 solid games last year. So he's had 3 straight games at 33 fantasy points or better. But look at the minutes, much less than what he's getting now. So obviously the situation is different now for Toronto. Since his last matchup back on November the 17th, he's been playing more center and playing more minutes, and he's going to continue to do that going into today. So I definitely love the matchup. Chicago, 28th in defending power forwards, and they are actually 16th in defending centers. So we got to give it to you in both. I'd rather give it to you in both. And opposing centers thus far this year, they're giving up 44.6 fantasy points per game. That is the worst on the slate for tonight. So Ibaka is in a good spot going up against Wendell Carter Jr., who's been playing center for Chicago as of late. 44.6 fantasy points per game. They did give up to Mr. Osman 26, Mr. Green 24, and Mr. Alex Gordon 37. Those are guys that were playing the power forward spot. But nonetheless, Mr. Ibaka is definitely someone I like here. And again, other than Ibaka, obviously there are some other guys that you got to consider. Like I said, Markkanen is not in a bad spot as well. He plays pretty much the 4 for these guys. So he's going to go up against Siakam. Tough matchup for both guys. So I will probably favor more Kyle Kuzma going up against Sacramento. Definitely like Kyle Kuzma here. He would be someone that I would definitely have on at least 25-30% of my lineups today. So Kyle Kuzma in play. I do also like in today as well. Jeremy Grant has been really solid at 5,700 in a favorable matchup against Dallas. So you got to consider Mr. Grant. Dallas is 17th defending power forwards, and they've given up 44.8 fantasy points per game over the last 5 games to opposing power forwards. They did give 85 big ones, obviously, to Anthony Davis. They gave up 36 to Draymond Green and 46 to Danilo Gallinari. So again, Jeremy Grant has been so active. The minutes are there. He's playing over 30 minutes. I definitely think he is someone you got to consider at 5,700. You also got to consider Wendell Carter Jr. in that game matchup against Toronto against Ibaka. You know, the kid has been playing well. A couple of nights ago, I threw him in on a number of my lineups because I stacked the Chicago-Washington game, and he came up with some pretty good numbers for me. But Wendell Carter Jr., 50th, going up against Toronto, 15th in defending centers thus far this year. Again, he's in a power forward position, but he will be playing center. They did give up 37 to Vucevic. 30. They've been giving up 37.5 fantasy points per game to opposing centers. They gave up 74 to Vucevic, which I gave to you guys a couple of nights ago, 41 to Whiteside, 45 to Embiid, and 40 to Larry Nance Jr. So Wendell Carter has a chance here. At 5,400, you only need about 26, 27. He can probably get you 30, 35, could smash value. If he can get you 10 more, he's a great GPP spot, in a great GPP position today. because he's capable of getting you 35 or 40. So Wendell Carter Jr. definitely in play. And you got to always consider Aminu. James Johnson, definitely love him here. He has an illness. He's a game-time decision. But if he's able to play, he's been playing rock-solid basketball for Miami as of late. 5,100. You only need 25 from him. And Minnesota has been giving up. As of late, Minnesota has been giving up 30.4 fantasy points to opposing power forwards, and they're 26 in defending power forwards. So they're down there in the bottom of the well as far as defending power forwards this year. They gave Collins 37 and Mr. Jeremy Grant 28 as of late. And Mr. Johnson is a very physical guy. Definitely a good matchup for him against Minnesota if he's able to play. And then you also got to consider Bam Adebayo. He's definitely someone you always got to consider. His price tag at 4,200. He's playing over 20 minutes. That is not a bad price tag for Bam Adebayo, who has the capabilities of giving you, 35, 40 fantasy points or better. Good shot blocker and all. 4,200. You only need 21. So Bam is in play. Again, like I said, Minnesota giving up 30.4 fantasy points per game to opposing. So you got Adebayo and you got James Johnson. If Johnson is out, Adebayo will get even more minutes on the floor and more usage. So either or, not a bad play. If you want to come down a little bit more and get a little cheaper, always got to keep an eye on Kleber here. Kleber could be someone in play, and even Dwight Powell for Dallas against OKC. He's at that almost that bare minimum price tag. He is definitely someone you can't consider there as a low budget play. All right, let's go over to center. And at center today, you got Joel Embiid at the top. Obviously, not a bad play for Mr. Embiid. Nurkic is a pretty decent defender. He's not the greatest defending center, but he's pretty decent. Embiid, if he has a bummed out knee, like I said before, I'm all over Ben Simmons if Embiid is not going to play in this game. I'm not high on Embiid today, even with a knee soreness or whatever it may be for him. I think that you could definitely pay down. Just like in power forward and small forward, I think those two areas which I mentioned, I gave you a couple of nice little plays under $5,000 and $6,000. I think those are areas that you could pay down at today, which I should have mentioned more so when I did the power forward spot. But at center here, there's only like 3 possible good plays for me here. Obviously, Nurkic, I gave you last night. He's on the front end of back-to-back, but he's consistent. 8,200. Chances are he's going to get you 40 again. He hasn't had an issue with back-to-backs this year, looking at his game log. So I don't see that being a factor. You do have Karl Anthony Towns. He is 9,900. You need 49, almost 50 for him to meet value. That's a little bit above his average. He has been playing well. He's going up against Miami. Whiteside is always a nice little good play because he's cheap, but he doesn't play enough minutes, man. His minutes is just so sporadic that you don't know if you should take him or not at 8,000. So I'm a little worried with that. I'm going to stick with just playing down here a little bit, and I'll stick with Cauley-Stein here. Willie Cauley-Stein at 7,300. You need pretty much 36 to meet value. He's averaging 14 points, 8.5 rebounds, nearly 3 assists, 32 fantasy points. At 7,003, you need 36 here on Fanduel. On DK, he is 6,800. So you need about a 34 there to meet value. I think he can get value, and the only thing I want from him today is to be just as steady as Nurkic. I would probably have Nurkic on maybe 30% of my lineups today, and then I'll have Willie Cauley-Stein in about 30 to 40, just simply because he has been rested, whereas Nurkic is in the front end of a back-to-back, so I'm just a little concerned, with him playing back-to-back games, but I think he and Cauley-Stein are the best bets here, especially even if you guys are looking to have cash games today. I think these are the 2 best guys you can go to that are going to be at least close to their price tag and value. So Willie Cauley-Stein in play for me. 31-plus minutes over the last 4 or 5 games, which I really do love. I'd like to see that consistently from a center. And as you can see, he has 50-point upside. He did a 56 spot here against New Orleans a couple of games ago. The minutes are there, pretty much 31 minutes or better. Usage rate is at about 18-19% on average, and he's taking, a little sporadically, but he's taking about 9 or 10 shots pretty much on average per game, if you really want to break it down. Over the last 2-3 games, he's been a little more active, and he's able to get to the foul line, shoot a couple free throws. Not the greatest, but he can definitely put them down. What he brings to the table is the rebounding. He's capable of getting you some assists, and he brings to the table, which I like, is a little bit of defense, especially the blocks. He's had 4 blocks in the last 3 games, and he has actually put up quite a bit of steals as well. All right, just got to watch the foul trouble, but he's been pretty clean the last 5 or 6 games, so that is good to see. And he has played the Lakers already. He did put up a 38 spot in his last game. So, I mean, actually, this game here is a preseason game. So the only 2 games of the season are these 2. And in those 2 games, he played 29 minutes. He played 30 minutes, 51% shooting, 10 rebounds per game, 1 block, 15 points per game, and he averaged 34 fantasy points. If you break that down, it's about 33, 34 fantasy points per game in those 2 games. So pretty solid there. The Lakers are coming in. They're 26 in defending centers. They're allowing 32.8 fantasy points per game as of late to the last 5 opponents. 38 to Mr. Stein just recently, 41 the game before that to Mr. Gasol, and 34 to Julius Randle 4 games back versus New Orleans. So I'm going to add in there Willie Cauley-Stein, but like I said, I will have some of my lineups with Mr. Nurkic in there. I think Nurkic is definitely a nice little safe play. He could probably get you 40 to as much as 40, 44. He's pretty consistent. But he has also that 50-point upside where he could probably just go off, especially if there's no Embiid. So you definitely got to have the exposure for any one of these 2. Other than that, I mean, you could go to Zubac here at 6,400. Only played 14, 15 minutes against Sacramento the last time out and only got up, I don't know if he put 14, what did he put, 14, 15 fantasy points. He put up 19. No, Sacramento, he played 20 minutes. He put a 14. Didn't play a whole lot in that game. Again, that's a risk you take if you want to do that, 6,400. I would rather just stick right there. And again, Muscala would be in play if Embiid is out. If Embiid is out, then you got to definitely pencil in Mike Muscala at 3,600. He will be someone to consider. You always can consider Noel here for OKC. He does play at least 18 to 20 minutes a game. So he is someone you can consider as well. He hasn't been doing that as of late. So my fault, not 18 to 20 minutes a game. He's been 12 and 10 minutes the last few games. He was averaging about 16, 17 minutes a game. But he is a 1 fantasy point per minute guy, so you can definitely consider that. But I think the best plays are Stein and Mr. Nurkic. And if you wanted to pay up, definitely Embiid or Towns could possibly go off with Karl Anthony Towns probably in the best matchup. So, and that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That is it, man. So that's the deal for today's slate, man. I wish you guys a lot of luck. Again, drop a like on the video. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Become a part of the DFS Zone community. Other than that, I mean, if there's any changes to this or I want to add to this, I will definitely tweet out a text tweet later, just maybe about a half hour or so before lock. If anything changes, I always give a few more other plays there as well to consider if somebody's out. And I also throw in usually another 5 or 6 that I think should be solid plays for the night other than the top 5 picks. And basically that's it, man. So I wish you guys a lot of luck. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you guys on the next video.